Welcome, everyone. My name is Michael Seelmann. I'm the CEO of the Leadership Coach Group. We're so glad that you could join us today for our webinar, The Stress Reset, Leading with Clarity in a World That Never Stops, right? Challenging. It's like things are always changing. There's always challenges we're facing. And so it's how do we handle that? That's probably going to continue. So how do we increase our capability to handle that challenging environment that we face? That's our topic today. In a moment, you'll hear me introduce our speaker, Jenn Biery, and also want to introduce the other members of our team, Carl Ramos and also Maya Sanan. So I think very glad to have them with us. And what we want to do is invite you in the chat to share where you're calling in from. And you can find the chat in the middle of your screen at the bottom. There should be a tray, and you kind of get the little chat icon. If you click on that, then you can share where you're calling in from. We'd love to be able to greet you and welcome you into our webinar today. So glad to have you with us. So I see we have Andrea from Oakland, California. We have Carl joining us from the Philippines, and just if you can fill in the, we have Dimitri from Calgary. Great to have our neighbors from up north with us. And we also have Maya from the Philippines, from Manila specifically. We have Lori from Ohio, and Jen greeting her fellow Canadian there. So glad to have you with us. Feel free to continue to enter that into the chat. We'd love to welcome you. And let's see, we also have a Q&A. So someone entered in Dublin. I never heard of Dublin, California. Good to have you with us too. Thank you for joining us, Raghu. Great to have you with us. All right, so with that, we're gonna jump right in. Feel free to share where you're calling in from if you haven't had a chance to do that yet. And we're gonna jump into our webinar. So we do these webinars monthly, and this month we're focusing on stress. We try to also align our topics with what might be happening in the world. And we thought people might be feeling a lot of stress, so we wanted to figure out, hey, how can you handle that? Do a stress reset. And we have that expertise in-house with Jen. And that's what we try to do is rotate around so you can see the great talented team we have, the Leadership Coach Group, and bring that expertise to your benefit in these free webinars. And it's open to everyone. So whether you're a client of ours or not a client, we hope that you could come, and please invite any of your colleagues. We hope you join us every month. Could be a family member, could be a friend, not just colleagues. So, and we do these webinars the first Friday of the month at noon Eastern time. So you could set an appointment on your calendar to join us every month if you like. And our goal is to provide you actionable insights. In fact, just before we hit start broadcast button, we were talking about that's one of the intents we bring is we want to make sure that you leave with something you can implement. And by the way, that's kind of a cool practice. Before you do something that's of service, call to mind the intent of what you're trying to do. And we were doing that just before the broadcast as a team. So to help you have those actionable insights and to make a difference in your world so that you're actually feeling less stress, we also have this presentation and a playbook that accompanies it. That's a step-by-step practical guide that you can use after the webinar or share it with others to help you in the quiet of your home or your office dive deeper into the things that you hear today and to do some reflection exercises. Why is that? Because we know we're just going to hit highlights of some of the content and some of the knowledge and wisdom that Jen has to share, because we want to also demonstrate what coaching is like. And so we have some live coaching, and that'll probably focus on some of the things that are hardest to do. So that's something to think about. Would you want to volunteer to be coached by Jen later in our webinar? And maybe something that you're hearing that might be like, oh, I'm not sure how to do that. That could be a great coaching topic. And we welcome your volunteering to be coached. So that's about what our webinar series is, and we're going to tell a little bit more about the playbook. We hope you take advantage of this. The playbook's free as well. We'll be sending you a link afterwards so you can download that. There's 4 major parts to this stress reset leadership playbook, and Jen's going to focus on these first 2 in particular, and that is what is the stress cycle and how to complete the stress cycle. I was sharing with Jen that in preparing for this webinar, I've been reflecting on that. It's like, do I regularly complete the stress cycle? So I'm looking forward to hearing her insights on that, and I'm going to be doing some reflection myself and hopefully doing better at completing that stress cycle. In the playbook, we also have daily leadership practices to reinforce the things that Jen will be talking about, and resources. She mentions in her presentation some books that you could go into, and in the playbook, we summarize those a little bit more so you can choose which ones might be helpful to you, or perhaps all of them. We also have some practical tools and techniques in there, some reflection questions, so you can go through those exercises when you're not actively participating in this webinar. You can have a chance to reflect more, and have some hands-on ways you can implement the strategies that Jen will be sharing. And of course, if you find that you'd like support beyond what you've got with the webinar and the playbook, we're here for you. We provide one-on-one coaching, including Jen. She's an awesome coach. You could have the opportunity to continue to work with her if you see, I want more of Jen. She's available to you. And we have other talented coaches as well. We also have services that support team effectiveness, like team coaching, leadership training, and motivational speakers. We also have leadership assessments. You're like, how am I showing up as a leader? Right before this, I was talking with a client of mine about his 360 and who might be important to be in that 360 so they can get a good sense of how he's showing up as the CEO of his organization. So leadership assessments can help you get that sense, and then you can take action based on the feedback that you hear. And our coaches have served leaders at organizations from micro organizations, one person, just a few people, up to global brands. Here we're putting the global brands because you've probably heard of them, but keep in mind that we've coached small organizations as well. We've coached leaders at government, nonprofits. We have expertise in supporting organizations just like yours. So we hope if you're so inclined, please give us the honor of supporting you. But here's some of the places that our coaches have served: Microsoft, SAP, Facebook, Google, Sony, Oracle, FICO, you name it. We've coached leaders there, and we can help you too. So often in webinars, you might wonder, am I going to get a copy of the slides? How do I access these resources? Don't worry, just sit back. They'll be coming to you. If we set it up properly, within just a few minutes, you'll be getting an email from us that says, here's a link to the playbook. Here's a link to the slide deck that Jen's sharing. And very importantly, here's a way to have a complimentary coaching session from Jen on this topic of stress reset, or any topic you like. She's available to you, and I hope you take advantage of that. So you'll be getting that follow-up email. Now, I get to introduce you my colleague, Jenn Biery. She's an executive coach with a decade of global leadership experience in finance, operations, and scaling high-growth startups. You might say, really? She's had all that experience already? And she has. She has shot up the career ladder very quickly, and had some really amazing scope to her leadership. And she led teams across Australia, Singapore, and Canada, including supporting a $50 million acquisition. And we kind of joked about this next bullet here. She's a recovering CPA that's passionate about creating a reflective space for high performers to look inwards and lead with intention and achieve sustainable success. And one of the things I learned in preparing for this webinar is she was named one of Canada's top emerging leaders in their 2024 list. That sounds really impressive, to be named top for your entire country. I've never gotten an honor like that in any countries, certainly not in the United States. So I was curious to hear more about that. Maybe Jen, you could tell us and our friends on the webinar about being named that top leader, and sharing a little bit more about your background. Jen, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michael. And thank you so much for that amazing introduction and all the highlights. And yeah, so this was through the Peak. So the Peak is, they do these like 5-minute kind of business summaries for Canadian business. So you can kind of stay on top of it. That gets emailed to you. And every year they select a round of leaders that they think are really shaping the future of Canada. So culturally and society and in business and all the things. And yeah, I was selected in 2024, which was a huge privilege and a huge honor. And hopefully I can live up to that. And
You're starting
yeah,
right here, Jenn.
yeah, I'm starting right here. So yeah, so that's a little bit about that. And I guess we kick it off from here, eh, Michael?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, all right, everybody. So, one, I just want to say thank you so much for attending this webinar live. It's also such a privilege and an honor to have all of you here. Time is our most sacred resource. So, just having you here live with us is such a gift. And so we're going to start because I can't see you, I love engagement. So you're going to see throughout this whole sort of webinar, I'm going to be asking you a lot to chat, like throw stuff in the chat and participate and engage. And that's also just going to help me to kind of figure out where we're at and are there questions. And so just use that. And so to start, we're going to use the poll feature. So this is actually the first time we're testing this out in the webinar, so bear with us. But we wanted to do this because this also allows a bit of anonymity. So from a scale of 1 to 10, since we're talking about stress, how stressed are you feeling today? So like right now, 1 being no stress at all, 10 being extremely stressed. So you should see at the bottom, there's going to be one of those icons. I think it looks like the graph. If you click on that, you should be able to see the poll there and just click your answer so that we can all kind of see where we at right now. Okay, see, people are starting to see. Okay, we're at 8. So high, we got 3 people with 8, I think. Okay, 8.5. This is our average rating. Amazing. Okay, so we're going to do a little exercise to help us get a little bit more present. And I'm very curious to see if we might be able to get that down even just micro. So let's go over to the next slide. And thank you for participating in this. And so we're going to do something called the 5 senses grounding technique. So one, I'm curious if anybody has done this before. You can throw that in the chat. And you can do this with your eyes open, or if you want to just take a minute and just kind of like lean back in your chair, close your eyes for a second. Let's just take a nice big inhale together and let that go. Nice sigh. You can let your shoulders come down. We're going to do this one more time just to kind of get settled. Big inhale. And then just let it go. Now, if your eyes are closed, we're going to open our eyes. I want you to just look around your room and find 5 things that you can see. So as you're kind of looking, really notice the details of whatever the 5 things are. Maybe it's your computer screen or your mug. Just find 5 things. Amazing. Now let's do 4 things that you can touch. So things that you can actually, maybe it's your hands, maybe it's your desk or your notebook or the pants you're wearing. Notice the textures and just find 4 things. Now let's do 3 things that you can hear. Might be your heartbeat, and then you might kind of extend it outwards, seeing how far you can hear out. Now let's do 2 things that you can smell. I also want to normalize, like if you can't find somebody to smell, then that's okay. Just name that too. And then 1 thing that you can taste. Might be like your coffee or your water. It might be nothing again, but that's okay. And then let's just take a nice big inhale together. Sigh it out. And then let's just do a little shake. All right. Okay, we're gonna do the
A
poll
lot
one
of
more time.
cracking when I was shaking, Jenn.
Yeah. That's good. We like those cracks. Okay, so we're going to do this poll one more time. So how are you feeling now after doing just 5 senses? I don't even know how long that was, a couple minutes, let's say. And let's just see if anything is shifted. And I also want to normalize if nothing shifted, it could be really awkward doing these kinds of exercises on a webinar. So that's okay too. Nice. I can't remember what we were at originally. I think it was like an 8, and now we're at a 4. That's like half. Okay, webinar is over. That is it. I'm just kidding.
Well done.
Yeah, well done. Okay, thank you everyone so much for throwing that in the poll, and let's kind of jump into it. So the first thing I want to do is just design the space a little bit together. Now, because it's a webinar style, it's a little bit different. So I think I said this already. So we're going to engage just by using the chat. Please take advantage of it. It really helps me a lot to just see where we're at. And if you have any questions, just feel free to throw those in throughout the webinar, and I'll just try to either bring them in. And if I miss them, then Carl or Michael will just throw it in, make sure I don't miss it either during or kind of after. So we'll try to get to that. And then what I want to encourage everyone to do, this is a big ask, I know, is turn your phone and laptop on focus mode. So you're here, and I'm so grateful that you're here live. And so let's really make the most of our time together. So don't be doing emails while you're watching this and doing texts. I know it's so easy. I actually have my phone like way over there on focus mode so no one bothers me. And so let's just be present together and see what we can create. And then I want to also throw in the chat, if there's anything else that you want to put in here to design the space together to help you actually show up and be able to be present here, then just throw that in the chat and let's kind of co-create that. Just gonna give a second in case anyone actually wants to throw anything in. And then let's, what do you want to take away from today? So obviously we've got some content planned, and that's great, but I also want to make sure that we touch on the things that are really important. So throw in the chat, what are you hoping to take away from today? Thanks, Michael. Yeah, right. Yeah, Carl. Amazing.
So Jenn,
All right, keep them.
In the chat, we have,
Say?
sharing that we want to stay engaged throughout, have a key takeaway to implement, and also to complete the stress cycle.
Ah, amazing. Okay, if there's anything else that comes up, just, oh yeah, throw it in. Yeah, we get some more.
We have tips and reminders on how to take those few extra moments to refocus, bring the stress down, learning ways to help manage stress, deal with anxiety. So maybe if that's different than stress, and while presenting to leadership.
Yeah, what a good one.
We have someone else that's typing away furiously to share their contribution.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for putting it in the chat. I know it can be kind of, you're in a group of strangers, and, we're kind of co-creating this at the same time. So I just want to say kudos to everybody that's throwing stuff in.
So I'll share when we have more in the chat, Jen.
Okay. And we will, I'm gonna kind of keep moving forward just because, I got like 10 minutes. Try to go through this fast. Okay, so as we're talking about stress, I wanted to make sure I kind of bring in my story into this too. So, I'm so grateful, you heard some of my career and kind of what I've done. And I also want to bring kind of like the cost of that, of moving so fast, of really prioritizing my career, and kind of how that meant for me in terms of my story around stress, and also why I'm so passionate about this and continue to invest in my own learning, trying to understand this. So this started really young for me. So as a teenager, young adult, and when I say young adult, I mean like college years, like early 20s, I was a high achieving perfectionist, still am. I call myself a recovering perfectionist as well as a recovering CPA with functional high anxiety. And so what that meant is putting so much pressure on myself all the time. I remember when I was really young, especially around like exam time, it was just nuts. Like I remember one time I had half of my face swell up overnight. No idea why. There was no rhyme or reason behind it. It just, by the time I turned 27, 28, I started getting these crippling panic attacks. And when I say crippling, I mean like I thought I was going into anaphylactic shock. It started the first time because I was drinking a banana nut tea at work. And in my mind, it felt like my throat was closing, my heart was racing, and I couldn't breathe. And I had no idea what was going on. Now, being a logical finance person, I was like, what is happening? Like, in my mind, this is what it felt like. But when I went to the emergency room, which I did about 5 or 6 times, thinking, oh no, it can't be another panic attack. And yes, it was a panic attack. And so as a logical person, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, I think I'm pretty rational, pretty logical. And yet in my mind, it's creating all of these sensations, which obviously are not good for my health. And it was really scary, to be honest. By the time I turned 30, I started getting really, really bad migraines. And so they run in my family. This is very normalized. So they're like, oh, like this just runs in our family. But the problem is they started getting longer and more frequent. So what was, what was a random migraine once a year because of stress started to be every month for 3 days long. And when I say like 3 day long, I mean like I was in bed, covering my eyes because I couldn't see, like worried I was going to throw up. And it was just horrible. And I was thinking, is this really what my life is going to be like? Like, how much worse could this be? I had panic attacks for a couple of years, then I'm having migraines. And then by the time I turned 32, I burnt out. And I'll be honest, I had no idea. Only a few years later, now that I'm out of it, I'm like, oh my goodness, I was a skeleton of who I was and I didn't know. And so I want to share all this ahead because I think it's really important to be talking about these things because when I was going through this, nobody talked about this. I didn't know how normal this actually was. So I'm going to talk a little bit about now how I know I'm stressed. And we're going to throw it back to you in a minute. So now this isn't like an exclusive list. Like there's probably way more things on here that I missed, but just to set up a little bit of context. So my brain gets really foggy and I can't think straight. So I generally like to think I'm pretty sharp. I can normally bring things together pretty quickly. When I'm stressed, it's like, blah, that's what my brain's like. I also want to eat junk, like chips, ice cream. I feel like I have no time. It doesn't matter how much I don't have scheduled. I could have 3 days with nothing on it, and it still feels like I have no time. I stop going outside. That's a big one because I end up just sitting in the chair for 5 days straight, pretty much just eating here and there and doing things, but not even going outside. I also stopped doing all self-care. So things like, going for a run, which I love to do, or going out with friends, or scheduling things, like things that are really just like things that I want to be doing. I stopped doing. I start getting really irritable. Honestly, you really don't want to be around me when I'm stressed. I start getting a little bit nitpickety. Poor Dave, my planner, just gets the brunt of it. And I also, one of the other telltale signs is I start checking my phone every morning. So I actually keep my phone in my office to charge just over here. And what will happen is I get out of bed, walk all the way to the office, grab my phone, walk back to bed, and then start scrolling, start answering emails. So these are some of my telltale signs. So let's throw it over to you. How do you know that you're stressed? So throw that in the chat. And I also just want to say, this is also, if you're like struggling with this question, when we do open it up for open coaching, this is a really good time to volunteer because we can kind of explore this together.
So Jen, we also heard from someone from the previous intent was to learn and manage stress in high stake situations at work. And now we also have some people commenting on how they know when they're stressed. We had one person say they get tense in the upper back or shoulders. Someone else said their back hurts. Another person said dry mouth, cold hands. And another person said overwhelmed, feeling headache, more easily irritated. Sounds similar to some of the symptoms you were describing.
Yeah.
And another person said headache, can't concentrate.
Yeah, these are great. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing and kind of throwing in, because you can just see there's a lot of different ways that we notice this. Thanks, Michael, for bringing them all in. And so, why do you think it might be important for us to know what stress feels like, especially for you? Because it's going to look a little different for everybody.
So folks could enter in the chat. This isn't just a rhetorical question. She's asking if, why is it important for you to know these things? So we had one person said so they can manage it.
Yeah, exactly. To know what to do. Yeah. Leads to health issues, 100%. Some foreshadowing there, Kirsty. Thank you. Yeah. Important to be self-aware. Yes. Yes. All of this. I know for me, it's I like knowing this because it allows me to start saying, oh, I need to do something about this. Yeah, great demo. So we can acknowledge it and address it, or at least be aware of it. Great. Okay, let's talk about the stress cycle a little bit. So stress is your body's natural response to a perceived threat. It's an ancient survival mechanism that we've developed over hundreds of years that have allowed us to run away from things like tigers. Except today, our tigers look a little bit different. So we've got a lot of external stressors. We've got work, money, family, time pressure, expectations, whether they're real or perceived, discrimination, all the notifications you're getting on your phone of people who want your time and your energy, transitions, identity shifts. And then we have internal stressors like being really hard on ourselves, self-criticism, body image, identity, memories, thoughts about the future, perfectionism, all those things. And your body's actually responding to this in the same way. Doesn't matter what the stressor is, it thinks it's a tiger, as if you're in danger. And so even after the stressful situation is over, your body is still kind of stuck in this go state. It's on high alert. It has a ton of stress hormones. And so we need to be able to complete the stress cycle. We need to allow our body to reset. And so what that means is our body needs something to physically signal to it that we're actually safe now. The tiger is gone, even if it's momentarily, like the notifications on your phone. And so we need to do something to complete this loop. Otherwise, we stay in that survival state. And that is where we start getting a lot of health issues because we're not changing states and we still have those stress hormones running through us and it just becomes chronic. So let's talk really quickly about the nervous system. So you've got the sympathetic nervous system, which is basically what we've been talking about this whole time, this sort of stress response. So that's more about the doing. It's about action and push. It's really that fight or flight, freeze or fawn we can add in there too. And then the other side of it, which is the parasympathetic nervous system. And so this is the state that we need to try and shift to, which is more about being. That's when you're sitting and having your morning coffee and looking outside and there's no noise around you. That's where you're just actually present. And this is where the healing is. This is where you're resting. This is where you're digesting. This is where you're in a little bit more flow. You're allowing. And so let's talk more about how to actually complete this stress cycle. So the most effective way to do this is through movement. This is walking, running, dancing, swimming, anything that's going to get your heart rate up and you're breathing deeper. there's other really great ways to break the cycle. And so you're not going to have 20 to 60 minutes every day. And so this is where we're going to kind of bring in some other things too. And so when we're talking about, what do we do before a presentation in a high stakes thing, or how are we managing stress in high stakes situations? Managing stress regularly. So one, tense and release. So we can do this together. You can tense your muscles. Oh my gosh, what are these hands? We're going to put our hands in a fist and just hold this for 20 seconds. Hold. And then let's release it. So doing this, there's like so many like calm.com and, if you look into like a tense and release or I forget what they're called, like a deep relaxation, I think they're called. You can find just like small, short meditations on this too. And then we just shake it out. So that's one way. Then we've got breath work. This is like the hottest thing right now. Everybody's talking about breath work sessions, which you can totally do. You can always, and there's like 101 different breathing exercises you can do. It can literally be a simple breathing in, breathing out 3 times. Box breathing is one of my favorites, and it's one of the things that the Navy SEALs do. And so that's where you're inhaling for a count of 4, you're holding your breath for a count of 4, you're exhaling for 4, and then holding the breath again for 4. There's 6, 7, 8 breathing, which is inhale for 6, hold for 7, exhale for 8. Look up pranayama, look up on Google breathing exercises, anything like that, breath work. So this is going to be, again, one of those things that you can bring in if you're in a high stakes situation, is just connect back to your breath. Notice it. Positive social interaction. So it's just genuine connection, conversation, laughter, going out with your friends, going for a walk with a coworker at lunch, just anything that's kind of getting you to engage with other people. Affection with a loving presence. So this is maybe with your spouse or your pets or your kids or your parents. A 20-second warm hug, just holding there. Feels longer than normal, but do it. 6-second kiss, feels longer than normal, do it. Petting an animal, all these little small moments. A good cry. Let's talk about crying. We never let ourselves cry. And so just allowing yourself, if it's there, maybe not in that high stakes situation, maybe you need to go to the bathroom, whatever, but just like allowing that emotion to go through. And even a tear-jerking movie can be great for this. It allows you to just like process while the movie's going. And then creative expression. So this is painting, music, writing, storytelling, anything that allows you to be really creative and just allows you to kind of get out of your head and just into sort of that creative zone. And then the last one we have here is spiritual connection. So this is just like believing and being with something that's bigger than yourself. So meditation, prayer, being in nature. And so we're going to move through this pretty fast because we're already a little bit over time. So throw in the chat if you want. What do you like as you're hearing this? What are some of the things that you want to do to break that stress cycle? Now, whatever you choose, the key is this: feeling the shift. So being consciously aware of when you're doing these things, that I'm trying to break the stress cycle here, that I'm connecting to myself in a different way. You're going to feel that release. Feel the drop, notice the exhale, and that's your body completing the cycle. Now, putting it into practice, try to do this every day or most days. Find at least one way to break that cycle intentionally, because it's not extra, it's definitely essential. Just like eating, sleeping, it's completing the stress cycle that's actually going to help your body and your mind feel well. And this is so important because as leaders, it all starts with you. It's noticing how your stress is impacting your ability to lead, your ability to show up, and your idea to be a great leader. And so a couple of resources, which you're going to see also in the playbook. And a lot of this goes really deep in the playbook. It's an excellent resource. Burnout. This is a fantastic book around breaking the cycle. They also have a TED Talk, 2 sisters. They're amazing. And then some other fun ones, The Body Keeps Score, Younger Next Year, and When the Body Says No. So again, all of those are in the playbook. Okay, Michael, over to you.
Thank you so much, Jen. if I could ask you a question, I was just wondering, like, when I look at the stress cycle, and I was wondering, like, do I complete it? How often do we need to complete it? Like when we, this title of our webinar is "A World That Never Stops," so it kind of feels like
Yeah.
there always can be a stressor. Like, how often should we be trying to do this completion?
Yeah, I would say honestly, it should be a daily practice of some sort. It doesn't have to be the 20 to 60 minutes of movement every day, but just doing something that's intentionally allowing yourself to make that shift. So it could be spending 5 minutes before you're going to bed. It could be just going for a really quick walk, but just doing something that's, intentionally thinking, okay, I want to kind of like complete the stress cycle. I would try to do it every day, and definitely on stressful days. So if you've had like, a terrible meeting with someone or something really stressful that you're really aware, then that's where you want to make sure that you're intentionally really making sure you're breaking it.
Thank you so much. So next we want to move into our open coaching session. And to participate in open coaching so that you can see and hear Jenn and she can hear and see you well, we asked that there be certain kind of equipment that we'd want you to do. So make sure you have ready to turn on your camera and microphone, and just the way we do the Zoho webinar here, we want to make sure you're on a desktop or a laptop computer. And by participating, you're giving us your consent to be recorded and that we can share this online, because we want Jenn's wisdom and your participation to reach as many people as possible. And when you're thinking about volunteering, we want you to be ready to have some stress reset coaching and engage in a conversation with Jenn, have a little back and forth. If you never had coaching before, that's what it is. It's a back and forth with your coach. So if you're ready to volunteer, you could just type "I volunteer" in the chat and we'll see that. Or you could use the raise your hand function, whatever works best for you. But we'd hope you volunteer and get a chance. It'll benefit you. And I'm sure the things that you're feeling as challenges, other people in the webinar too will be feeling a very similar challenge. So they'll benefit from hearing you be brave and walk through it with Jenn as well. So again, if you could just throw in the chat, say "I volunteer," that would be great. And while I do that, I can read some other comments people had written earlier. Jenn was that it's important to be self-aware, so that we can acknowledge that we're feeling stress and address it, or at least to be aware of it. And we have someone else that's um, commenting as well, look like. So encourage you to just hit volunteer in the chat. We'd love to have you volunteer for open coaching.
Yeah. And if we were, when we were asking those questions around, what does it feel like? If you want to connect to some of that a little bit deeper, this could be a great thing to dive into a little bit in this coaching.
Raghu has volunteered. Thank you so much, Raghu. We really appreciate that. And we have Dimitri also, who's so let's start with Raghu, and maybe we'll be able to get to others. So Raghu, you'll be getting an announcement that you'll be joining as a co-organizer so that everyone can hear and see you. And then we'll be turning over to Jenn to engage in the conversation, and the rest of us will be turning off our camera. And we'll see Raghu pop up here in just a moment.
There you are. Hey, Raghu.
Hello.
Are we saying that correctly, by the way?
Yes.
Okay. Amazing. Welcome. Is there anything that you want to design in this space, especially because we're doing this with a crowd, before we kind of dive into the coaching?
Nothing much. Yeah, let's get in. Let's dive in.
Okay. Where do you want to start?
Tell me what should I do now? I'm ready for the coaching.
Okay. Yeah. What do you want to start? So you talked about wanting to manage stress, I think. I'm just going back to some of your comments here. Dealing with anxiety while presenting to leadership. Why don't we start with that?
Yeah. So when I'm supposed ready for presentation, particularly the senior leadership, when I go in, I kind of dry mouth, a little bit of cold hands, cold feet, and I feel like though the room is fully warm, but I feel cold, and so
Yeah.
it takes a while to get going, but still that feeling remains with me for the entire session.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
to see how I can really get better at it, and so that because by having that symptoms, I'm not really fully present and fully able to deliver what I wanted to deliver. So
Yeah.
I want to really unlock that and make sure that I do the right good job in presenting the ideas that I have, so that I represent my team and and the values that I present. Right, I want to make sure that I do it right. So how do I really go about it? So some of
Yeah.
the tips that you mentioned, I try, but still not effectively getting out of it. So maybe some practice is needed. So
Yeah. So you want some practices? Because what I'm hearing is there's like a deep desire for you to really show up as your best, especially when you're doing these presentations.
yep.
Yeah.
Not just only presentations, high stake conversations. Suddenly my CFO stops me in the hallway and asks a question, though I have the answer, but I'm not really presenting it well, because the in moment question and answer, and like, how do we present this, because the stress takes over the moment I see, oh, okay, there is something coming at me, right? So yeah, so those are the situations I would like to really address well.
Yeah. And what I'm curious about is, like, in a way, we're kind of doing a presentation right now. So what are you noticing right now?
I have the similar experience right now. My mouth is a little bit dry, not as dry as it used to be at work, but definitely
Sure.
it's dry. I feel cold, and I can feel my heartbeat.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's take a moment and just, I want you to just be with that. Just notice it.
Yeah, I could really feel all of the
Yeah.
sensations that I normally feel at work. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you okay to stay there for another couple breaths?
Yes. The more I observe, the more I could sense the symptoms. Yeah.
Yeah. What else are you noticing?
Slowly, I'm calming down
Mhm.
as time passes by.
Interesting. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
If we were to connect to any of that to kind of your presentations, is there anything you could take away from that?
Maybe, yeah, taking some breathing, and so I can maybe divert the attention from the core concept, and maybe so I'm able to little bit calm down.
Yeah. 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 I'm going to take my coaching hat off for a sec. Is that okay?
Yeah, please.
One of the things that has been really helpful for me, I also, honestly, I actually hate talking in front of groups. This has been a huge growth for me over the last couple of years, to be able to speak well, or try to speak well, or learn how to speak better in front of groups. And so one of the tips that someone gave me is to be really present with what's there now. So allow it to be there, because often we kind of want to like stuff it away, like, oh, I'm really nervous, so I'm going to just pretend I'm not nervous, and then we're more nervous. And so there's this sort of like thing that we are holding, where it's like, okay, I'm holding that I'm, nervous because this is a high stakes conversation, and I'm also going to show up. So I can hold both of those things. And by giving ourselves permission to kind of do that, we're able to actually do the other one a little better. So I'm curious, is there anything in that for you?
Absolutely. I think the just to start, when you guys asked for a volunteer, right? The moment, okay, I want to volunteer, the moment the anxiety level rose up, and I was like not sure whether to do I type or do I not. There are 30 seconds, 40 seconds waiting, and then I said, okay, let me dive in, right? I don't really want to pass this opportunity to be coached. So I said, okay, let me in. And the moment I was typing, I could see the anxiety increasing, and I'm a bit stressed. The I'm actually now looking for water so that my mouth can get wet. It's very dry now. So
Yeah.
so these are the symptoms I naturally feel in at work as well. So now the things that you mentioned, like breathing techniques and squeeze and relax, I think definitely there are some things that I can take back and practice, but not like in a meeting, but maybe before the meeting,
Sure.
prepping for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Few things that I can definitely implement as soon as my next meeting is kind of
Yeah. I
quick
love
wins.
that. Yeah, just looking at the time, and we gotta kind of close this part out. So I just want to check in. Is there, as we kind of close out this very, very quick coaching, is there anything like what do you want to take away from this?
Few quick things I can do to get out of the stress is like maybe do some exercise, a little bit of breathing and and focus on what I want to achieve rather than the stress part of it. Maybe,
Yeah,
yeah, few things that I can really implement right away.
amazing. And I want to just honor and thank you for volunteering and kind of getting out of your comfort zone and come on this webinar, put your video on, and kind of allow yourself to be live coached in this.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. All right, I'm going to throw it back to Michael.
Well, Raghu, let me also commend you for volunteering, and that's how we get better, right? We make ourselves vulnerable, we challenge, we embrace this growth mindset, and hopefully the techniques that Jenn talked about, like the breathing, the being aware. Have you done an awareness of your environment before, like Jenn had talked about? Have you tried that, the
Yeah.
senses? Yeah, that might be some different techniques, and you could look at. So if we could bring our slides back up, I'll kind of close this out. But thank you, Jenn, for doing that. Thank you, Raghu,
Okay,
for
thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you, Raghu.
volunteering. So just like we talked with Raghu about what you might take away today, let me turn it over to Jenn to facilitate what others might take away from this presentation. Jenn?
Yeah, thanks, Michael. So I always love to put like benchmarks when we do things like this. So it's what are you taking away from today? So we went through a lot of different content, a lot of different things around the stress cycle, a lot of different ways, plus this little coaching with Raghu. So like as you're kind of here, what are you taking away? What's that one thing that you're taking away from today? Let's throw it in the comments so we can all kind of learn from each other.
You know, I saw in the comments, Jenn, that someone said, "Yeah, awesome, Raghu," and that could be a takeaway. You know, it's something that I said to my clients in the past is keep in mind that a lot of your audience, like Raghu talking about presenting in high stakes meetings, that your audience wants you to succeed. Just like Dimitri was saying, "Yeah, awesome, Raghu," right? Like that's kind of cool that even in this webinar, two people that don't know each other, Dimitri's rooting for Raghu, right? And that's something to keep in mind in these high stakes situations. Is that if you're invited to speak at a meeting or at all hands or stop by your CFO, they believe in you. They're asking you something because they expect you to be able to provide them information, or that they respect your opinion as a leader. So maybe that can be helpful too, just like we saw in today's webinar.
Yeah.
So we had Lori asking, how does this compare to therapy? And we have Reva saying how completing the stress cycle can be done anytime and it doesn't need to take hours to do it. But I don't know if you have any thoughts for Lori, perhaps.
Yeah, I love this question because, when I first got into coaching, actually, I had a very similar question. And so therapy is a lot more about kind of diving into the past. It's a lot more about kind of like analyzing it, thinking about it. Coaching is a lot more about what's here right now and what do you want to do about it. So how do you kind of move forward with it?
I can share for me, so one of my takeaways is like completing the stress cycle, and I do breathing with my clients a lot, and I do that myself in my own practice. But I think you highlighted some other things like the tense and release, and the being aware of the environment and going through very deliberately our different senses. But I want to vary up the way I complete my stress cycle. So that's some takeaways that I have. All right, maybe we can go to our next slide. So just as a reminder, you'll be getting a follow-up email after this webinar. In that email, there'll be the Stress Reset Playbook link, and there'll be a webpage that has that and a slide deck, an opportunity to have complimentary coaching. For instance, Raghu, you could continue your conversation with Jenn, or you could try out some of the things that she talked about or you see in the playbook, and you could talk with Jenn about the result of that. Lots of different ways you could take advantage of that complimentary coaching session. We also want to encourage you to provide us feedback on this webinar. What we do right after the webinar is we do an after action review, and we'd love to have your feedback when we do the after action review. We'll read it anytime it comes in, but we really welcome that feedback. For instance, last time we had someone that said, I'd love to hear more about the personal experience of the presenter and how it relates to the content. And I think you heard Jenn do that in the webinar. So we love getting that feedback. So if you can either scan this QR code, or we have links in the chat, and also it'll be in the follow-up email. We'd love to get your feedback, particularly if we could see it right away as we do our after action view. So we invite you to give us that feedback. And we'd like to tell you about our next webinar, which is Leaders Leveraging AI to Elevate Personal Effectiveness. And usually we highlight different members of the team, and I just play the role of host. And in this webinar, I will be presenting on this topic. It's also related to the PhD dissertation that I'm doing on leading organizational change related to AI and psychological safety strategies. But in our company, the Leadership Coach Group, we embrace AI. We use it a lot. We try not to see it as not as a threat, but rather as a force multiplier, and we use it basically every day. And in fact, Carl suggested that I do this webinar, so I've learned to act on her advice. So thank you, Carl, for suggesting this topic. And so I look forward to doing that. That'll be Friday, October 3rd, and we hope you can join us for that. So with that, I want to thank everyone for joining us today, for all the participants, particularly for Jenn for presenting, for Raghu getting over that hesitation and that cold feeling and jumping in there. And hopefully that leads to some great outcomes for you, Raghu. I want to thank also for supporting one another in the chat. That was fantastic to see that. We hope that you can join us. Please feel free to share this recording. It should be posted by Monday. Feel free to share it with others in your life that might benefit from the wisdom Jenn had to share. We hope you'll join us in future broadcasts in October and every month, and spread the word. It's free, no obligation. We try to provide this as a resource to you. We hope you and your friendship group or your colleagues will take advantage of it. So again, thank you very much. And also, of course, if you want something beyond webinar help, beyond the playbooks that we have, beyond the complimentary coaching, we are here from you. We have one-on-one coaching, team effectiveness, we have leadership assessments. You can reach out to myself or to Maya. We'll put our contact in the chat. But actually, it's up on the screen too. So mine's Michael at leadershipcoachgroup.com is my direct email. Maya's is Maya at leadershipcoachgroup.com. So we hope that you will reach out to us. Don't be a stranger. We're here for you. You can give us a phone call. However you want to reach out to us, we're here for you. But thank you again for joining us. We hope you take action on what you learned today. Try to just do at least one thing within the next week or two. Jenn shared some amazing techniques. Maybe you can even do it later today. Again, thank you for joining us, and best wishes.